Hi again, students. In this video, we're going to learn about how to do hand building with air dry clay. It is a little different from stoneware clay, or the type of clay that you would fire in a kiln. But some of the techniques are similar. So we're going to look at how to do a slab construction, like cylinder shaped vessel. We're gonna look at how to take a slab and slump it over top of a form so that we can make kind of like a bowl type vessel from a slab. And we're going to look at how to do the opposite. So we're gonna take a slab and drape it inside of a bowl so that we're left with sort of that kind of bowl. So 3 methods using slabs. We're also going to look at how to join pieces on to other pieces to create like a pinch pot design with embellishments on it. So this is my little pinch pot from the previous video, and I've added a couple little pieces on. And then finally, how to join 2 pinch pots together so you can create sort of more of a rounder vessel. And I've stuffed some newspaper inside of there so that it can help it hold its shape. So I did not plan these projects. These are just sort of what happened when I started to do the demo. But this video is meant to give you some ideas for techniques that you can use in order to build your clay vessel. All right, let's get started.
All right, so the first thing I want to do is make some slip. So I have a little Tupperware container of water. I'm going to grab some of my air dry clay and I'm just going to pull off little chunks of clay and I'm going to put them into the water. I'm doing the chunks small because that increases the amount of surface area and increases the amount of water that can absorb in there. So this is good if you can do this like the night before you're planning on building your vessel, because that'll give the water some more time to absorb into the clay. Then I'm going to stir it and I'm just going to cover it with some saran wrap so that the water can't evaporate. And I'm going to use this kind of as a glue to stick pieces onto other pieces. So this is my texture slab that I made in my last video, and this is just a plastic cup. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the slab and I'm going to drape it over top, gently over top of the cup. So this is called draping a slab, and it can help you create a really cool vessel. So once this dries, it's going to be kind of like a wavy bowl. If I had a longer slab, then it would be sort of more of a deeper bowl. This is going to be a little bit of a shallow one. And the texture is going to be all on the outside, which you may not be able to see as well. But if you're thinking of doing this method, you could consider having the texture on the inside instead. So once you have it sort of how you want it, you don't have a ton of choice. It kind of, slab just kind of does its thing. Then you're just going to set it aside. All right, in this technique, we're going to do something similar. We're going to use a slab and we're going to press the slab into a form, like a pre-made bowl that you have in your home. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that there's enough moisture in the clay. I've sprayed some water onto my work surface and I'm rolling out my slab. So I'm making sure to lift up my slab and flip it over regularly so that it doesn't stick to my surface. And I am using a sponge to smooth out any cracks that I might find. And I'm also using the sponge to smooth around the edges of the slab so that when I drape it or when I press it into the form, I won't get too much cracking. So just like we did with this one where we're draping it over, we're now going to press into a bowl. Grabbed a bowl from my kitchen and I'm just going to put some plastic wrap inside of the bowl to stop the air dry clay from getting stuck onto the bowl. And I'm going to do some texture. I'm going to add some texture to this slab. I'm going to press some leaves into the slab. And I'm going to first just cut around the edge because I feel like the slab when I was making it, the edges are very thin. And so I just want to avoid them cracking and just being super thin. So I've trimmed off the outside part of the slab, and I'm going to add my texture by pressing the leaves in. All right, so I'm going to leave the leaves pressed onto the slab because when I start pressing this into the bowl, it's going to be kind of tricky. So I want to keep the leaves there. So I'm kind of folding the slab so that it's more rounded. And then I'm just gently pressing the middle down into the bowl. So I'm going to get this cool little wavy effect with the edge of the bowl, which is really cool. And if you can kind of get rid of that a little bit by pressing into the side of the bowl. But you just want to be really gentle so that you don't rip the slab. If you do end up ripping the slab, you can take the slab out and start over, or you can try to patch it using just a little bit of your air dry clay. So once we have it kind of how we want it, it's pressed into the bowl enough, and we like the way that the edges are waving, then we can just place this aside and let it dry. Our next technique also involves a slab. So this time I'm using a little bit of a larger chunk of clay because I want to have a bigger slab than my two previous examples. So I'm just doing some wedging to make sure that the moisture content is distributed evenly, and then I'm going to start rolling my slab out and pressing the clay down with my palms into a flat pancake. Made sure that my slab is about a centimeter thick, and now I'm going to cut my slab into kind of like a long rectangle. I am going to leave this cool edge on the other side a little bit more natural. So I'll just cut. You can use a ruler to do this. A lot of ceramic artists will use a ruler to do this. Oh, and I'll leave the top edge as well. And then what I will do is I'm just going to sort of curve this and join those two pieces so it's like a big cylinder. So it's almost like it can be a pencil holder or just sort of a long cylinder. But I will need to use a slip to join those two pieces. You can also just cut the two pieces to be straight and join them that way. I'll put a picture here. So before I actually join the pieces together, I'm just going to add some texture to add some interest to the piece. Okay, now it's time to grab that slip that we made earlier, and it hasn't had a ton of time to sit. We want it to be sort of like the consistency of yogurt, but it's still quite chunky. So that's fine, I'll just work with it. So I'm going to give it a little stir. And then I'm going to take my slab and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to join it. And then I'm going to use a tool. So I'm going to use a fork here to make a bunch of little scratches on the surface where I want to join it. So this is called scoring the clay. So I'm going to just scratch it up, make it really rough, kind of like the texture of Velcro. I'm doing that on both of the surfaces where I'm going to join the clay. Then I'm going to grab some slip, and like I said, it's quite chunky, so I'm going to grab some chunks of slip. It is better if it's more of a yogurt consistency. And I'm going to place those all along the spot where I want to join the two pieces together. And this is going to act like a glue to hold the two pieces together. So once I have the slip all on the join, then I'm going to press the two pieces of clay together. And I'm kind of using the working surface to press the two pieces together. And I do want to have that cool little wavy edge, so um, I'm not going to try to join those two together. I still want that edge to be there. Use that little excess piece of slab and I'm going to make the bottom of my cylinder. So I'm just going to place it on top and then trace around it, cutting with my pin tool or toothpick. And the plan is that I will then use slip and scoring to join the bottom as you see in this picture here. I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to flip the cylinder over and use the fork to score. Remember, I'm trying to make it very rough. I'm going to score all around the circle as well. I will add slip and then I'm going to press the two pieces together. And this is where we will smooth out the join between the two. I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So pressing the two pieces together, and then all around the edge here, I will use my popsicle stick to make it look as though this two pieces of clay was never two pieces and it was one piece. So I want to not have that join line visible. My popsicle stick to pull down the clay and make it look as though the two pieces are one. So that is how you would use a slab to build a cylinder. Slabs can also be used to build rectangular prisms or cubes as well. But yeah, I think that the cylinder is a bit more simple and easy for this project as it's kind of a beginner project. So that is my slab cylinder vessel. So the next technique I wanted to show you is using a pinch pot. So this is just that pinch pot that I made in the previous video. You can join pieces to your pinch pot. So you can have like decorative elements, or you could do like feet or handles, or anything of that sort. So I'm going to show how to do that. So we're just going to be using the score and slip method again. But in some cases, we may need to add additional clay to make the piece a little bit more balanced, and kind of work with gravity instead of working against gravity. So what I'm doing here is I decided to do kind of like a little sea monster or dinosaur head and tail added onto my pinch pot. So what I'm doing is I'm sculpting the head and I'm going to go ahead and add some little triangles as well. So let's move ahead in the video and we'll do that. So I've made a bunch of little triangles out of a slab. I'm just cutting them out of a small slab that I made. And I'm going to join those onto the dinosaur head using the score and slip method. So I'm just scoring along the back and I will then add slip and press those triangles onto the head. Okay, so I am ready to attach the head onto the pinch pot. So the pinch pot lip or rim is very thin and the head is quite big and heavy. So I'm going to do my best to sort of balance it out. So I'm doing the scoring on the bottom of the head, and then I'm going to score on the pot as well. And I've kind of picked a spot where the edge is a little bit thicker. Now I'm going to add some slip onto the head here. And then I'm going to press the two pieces together. And now this is when it's not going to work to just press the two pieces together. If I do that, the head will just fall right down. So what I need to do is to smooth the two pieces using my popsicle stick to make them seem as though they were one piece. And then I also have grabbed a couple little chunks of the air dry clay and I'm just pressing it inside of the pinch pot so that it kind of puts something to support the back part of the head there, so that it doesn't sort of flop forwards. So I'm then just using my popsicle stick to sort of uh, join those pieces together and then picking off and adding some more chunks as needed. All right, so I repeated that process with the tail and it's kind of looking a bit wobbly. I think that I need to let it dry a little bit, and then I can do the smoothing out later on. So what I also found was that the head was flopping down. So what I will do is I kind of, when I lift it up, that's how I want it to dry. So I'm going to search for something that I can place underneath. Maybe it's like a chunk of clay, or maybe it's here I've got a little wood cube and a tinfoil ball. I'm just going to place, that's the perfect height. I'm going to place that under the head to allow it to dry in the position that I want it to dry in. And you could do that with the tail if you wanted as well. So that is kind of the basics of how to join a piece to another piece, and some of the sort of challenges that may come along with that. It's not as simple as just scoring and slipping. Sometimes you have to think about the structure and the physics, the gravity of it. All right, our final and most challenging technique is we're going to take two pinch pots and we're going to join them together. So one thing that it's a little bit of a challenge is to make sort of like a rounded vessel that kind of flares out. And so this is one way that you can do that. So I've made two pinch pots. I've tried to make them the same size. One of them is slightly smaller though. Um, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that smaller one sort of as the top. It's going to kind of go inside the other one. I'm going to join the two of them together. In order to do this though, I need to have somewhere to put my fingers so that I can support the edge of the of the pot. If you were to let your pinch pots dry a little bit and then try this, you may not need to cut the hole there. So I've cut a hole so that I'm able to sort of support from the inside. So now I'm going to score both pots. And I'm going to add slip around both pots as well. And now that I've got the score and the slip going on, I'm going to press the two pots together. So because I did not allow the pinch pots to dry at all before trying to join them together, they kind of ended up flopping downwards. And so if you do want to have more of a rounded ball shape, you may want to wait and let your pots dry slightly before you join them. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting my finger inside and I am using my finger to support the wall of the pot while I use my popsicle stick to pull upwards so that the crack, the join line between the two pots is no longer visible. And I'm just sort of adjusting as I go to make it into the rounded ball shape that I'm hoping to get. So I'm going to go all the way around. And if you accidentally tear through the pot, you can try to patch it up by just using a little chunk of clay. And if you're finding that they're kind of really floppy and they're not really working to join together, maybe just pause and allow it to dry a little bit. So I'm now going to just work all the way around and joining the two pots together. All right, so here is my slab, my draped slab, so it's dry enough that I can remove the cup. And there's kind of the final product here. You could always use a sponge to sort of smooth out the edges if you wanted. Just add a little bit of water. And here is the slab that I pressed into the bowl. So it's not super dry yet, but what I can do is I can pull on the plastic wrap and sort of pop out the bowl. It's dry enough so that it will still keep its shape. I can even remove those leaves and see I could carve in with a tool to make some more surface designs on there. And I can kind of press it down into the table so that it makes the bottom a bit flatter. And if you don't want to allow your piece to dry and you want to save it to work on another day, you can spritz it with a bit of water and then cover it up with a plastic bag. Like a Ziploc bag is perfect. This type of bag is fine if you kind of wrap it around tightly, and then you will be able to work on it the following day. All right, so these are kind of the dried pieces. They're mostly dried. I could maybe do some more work sanding or painting these. Um, some of them have a bit of cracks, and that's just part of the material. So feel free to paint them or decorate them in any way. Take a photo of your vessel and upload it to the Dropbox. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching.